Welcome to the deep dive. Ever wish you had like a legal expert on speed dial to break down all that complicated legal stuff?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, today we're diving into a system called DataLex. And it might just be the next best thing. We've got your research here.
Right.
And it's fascinating stuff.
It really is. DataLex is trying to make legal knowledge way more accessible, and they're going about it in a really clever way, I think.
All right, so tell me more. What makes DataLex so special?
Well, the heart of it is their coding language called yscript. It's designed to be like plain English, so even if you don't know anything about coding, you can still understand how it takes like legal rules and turns them into something a computer can work with.
Wait, so you're saying this yscript can make legalese something my computer can understand?
Exactly.
I'm intrigued already, but how does it actually do that?
Okay, so think of it this way. AScript breaks down legal rules into like a series of logical statements, almost like a flow chart. Then DataLex takes those statements and uses them to ask you questions, zeroing in on the rules that apply to your specific situation.
So it's like a super smart, interactive legal FAQ.
Yeah, you could think of it like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned this system also connects with AustLII and other legal databases, right?
That's right.
So how does that fit into this whole picture?
That's where it gets really interesting. See, DataLex doesn't just interpret the law. It actually links you straight to the source material. So if it's like analyzing a rule based on a specific law, it'll pull up the relevant legislation from AustLII right there in the application.
Wait, I can actually see the original law while using DataLex?
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about transparency.
Right.
No more wondering where these rules are coming from.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's get back to this yscript thing for a minute.
Sure.
What makes it tick?
Yeah.
What's so special about it?
One of the key things is it uses this declarative coding approach. So instead of telling the computer how to apply a rule, like step by step, you just define what the rule says.
So it's less like writing a computer program and more like explaining the law clearly.
Exactly.
That sounds way easier. Wouldn't that make it tough to handle all the nuances and exceptions that legal rules are known for?
Not at all. yscript lets you build all sorts of different rules to really capture how complex the law can be. You've got goal rules, which are kind of like the starting points for the system's reasoning. They guide DataLex toward figuring out what specific legal issue you're dealing with.
So like choosing your own legal adventure?
Kind of.
What other kinds of rules are there?
You've got backward chaining rules. These come into play when the system needs to figure out if something's true in order to apply another rule. So it's like working backward from a conclusion to see if all the evidence actually adds up.
That makes sense. It's like when you're solving a mystery. And you have to see if someone had the opportunity to do it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got goal rules, setting the stage. Backward chaining rules, searching for clues. What else is in this legal toolbox?
Well, sometimes one fact can trigger a cascade of other rules becoming relevant, you know? And that's where forward chaining rules come in. They're activated when a new piece of information comes up. And that can trigger other rules that rely on that new information.
So like a domino effect of legal logic.
Exactly.
One thing leads to another.
Yes.
And the whole picture starts changing.
Yep.
Clever. Are all the rules in yscript so up front and center, though?
Not necessarily. There are also daemons, which are kind of like those forward chaining rules, but they work behind the scenes. They don't directly ask you questions, but they're still influencing the system's reasoning quietly.
Sneaky little things. So yscript can handle all those legal twists and turns.
It sure can.
But what about those times you need to actually do something with this legal knowledge? Like generate a document?
Oh, yeah. yscript can handle that, too.
Really?
It has special procedures for structuring sequences of actions. Like generating a whole legal document. But you have to tell the system to use them.
So like a separate set of instructions for specific tasks. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But how would you go about creating the content of those documents?
Well, don't worry, they thought of that too. yscript has document rules that use commands like paragraph and text to build the document piece by piece.
So like writing a legal Mad Libs, but way more sophisticated.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm impressed. This yscript is like a legal Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
But we've been talking a lot about rules and logic. what about the actual information that's going into the system? How does yscript handle all those real-world details?
That's where facts come in. They're basically pieces of information DataLex needs to know to do its thing.
Gotcha.
These can be simple, true or false statements, like the applicant is over 18.
Right.
Or they can hold more complex data, like numbers, dates, even whole chunks of text.
So it's not just yes or no answers. It can handle the messy details of life.
Exactly.
But, legal language can be so impersonal and jargon-filled.
Yeah.
Does using DataLex feel like I'm talking to a robot lawyer?
Not at all. yscript has this cool feature called named subjects.
Okay.
And it lets the system refer to people and things by name.
So it's more personalized.
Yeah, it makes the questions and the output much more user-friendly.
So it's like having a conversation with a legal expert who actually remembers your name.
Exactly.
But legal rules can get so convoluted with all the ands, ors, and excepts. How does yscript deal with all that?
That's where expressions and operators come into play. yscript has a bunch of these.
Okay.
Like ND, or, plus, equals, and more. You combine them to create really sophisticated expressions that can capture the nuances of even the most complex legal language.
Wow. Starting to feel like I could write a law in yscript.
Maybe.
We've talked about this AustLII integration a lot.
Right.
But I'm still not picturing how that works within DataLex. Can you walk me through it?
Sure. So imagine you're using a DataLex application, answering questions, and you come across a rule that mentions a specific law.
Yeah.
Because DataLex is plugged into AustLII, it automatically creates a link to that law right in the application.
No way. So I can see the source of the rule right then and there.
That's right.
That's incredible, like a legal research assistant built right in.
Exactly. You can double-check the information, see the context,
right.
and really understand how the rule is being applied.
Adds a whole new level of transparency and credibility.
Absolutely.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. This is some next-level legal tech.
It is pretty cool.
What if I wanted to build something big and ambitious with yscript?
Yeah.
Like something covering a massive area of law. Could I bring in other people's work?
Absolutely. DataLex is all about collaboration.
Okay.
It lets developers combine rule bases from different sources using the include keyword.
So it's like a giant legal Lego set. Everyone contributes.
Exactly. You got it.
That's amazing. But before we get too carried away with this legal Lego land, you mentioned DataLex can reason by analogy using case law.
Yes.
Now, how on earth does that work?
This is where it gets really fascinating. See, DataLex isn't just about working with, clear-cut rules.
Yeah.
It can analyze legal cases and make comparisons.
Hold on. So DataLex has a mini-judge inside that can go through case law and find relevant examples.
You could say that.
Oh, wow.
So in yscript, cases are represented as examples, and DataLex uses a special algorithm called Pandata to compare those examples to your situation.
Pandier. That sounds adorable.
It is a cute name.
But what does it actually do?
It stands for Precedent Analysis by Nearest Neighbor Discriminant Analysis.
Okay, Panday is definitely easier to say.
Right. So it basically looks at the similarities and differences between your case and the examples it has on file.
Okay.
And this helps DataLex figure out which precedents are most likely to apply.
So it's like a legal matchmaking service for cases.
That's a good way to put it.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
I can already see how DataLex could be used to build powerful tools.
Yeah.
But before we go too far down that rabbit hole,
sure.
What does all this mean for the average person? What are the real-world implications of DataLex and yscript?
That's a great question. It's important to remember that DataLex is still developing.
Okay.
It's not meant to replace legal advice from a professional.
Right, of course.
But it has huge potential to make legal info more accessible, more understandable.
So a powerful starting point, but not the final word.
Exactly.
Like having a knowledgeable guide, but not your lawyer.
Precisely. Think of it like a bridge between the complex language of the law and, actually understanding it.
That's a really empowering thought. It sounds like DataLex could be a game changer for people who need to understand their rights and their options.
Absolutely.
But we've only just started looking at this fascinating system.
We've only scratched the surface.
There's still so much more to explore.
There is.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but stick around. When we come back, we'll continue our deep dive into DataLex. We've got more exciting features to unpack, like document assembly and real-world examples of how this technology is being used today. Stay tuned.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were getting into the nitty-gritty of DataLex and how it's going to change how we think about legal information. One of the things that really caught my eye was this whole document assembly feature. It sounds almost too good to be true.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie. You feed information into this system and bam!
Right.
A perfect legal document just appears.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing it's a bit more complicated than that.
It is a little bit, but it's still pretty amazing. Remember those document rules we talked about?
Yeah.
Those are the key to all this. They basically let you define the structure and the content of a legal document, all using that plain English yscript syntax.
So it's like creating a template.
Yes.
That DataLex can fill in with the specific details.
Exactly.
Kind of like those online forms you fill out, but for legal documents.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. So let's say you're building a system to generate wills.
Okay.
You could have a document rule for each section, like one for the person making the will, another one for who gets what, and so on.
So each rule handles a different part of the document. But how does DataLex know what information goes where? Does it just read your mind?
Well, not quite. That's where those facts we talked about come in. Remember those.
Yeah.
You can actually embed those facts right into the text of a document rule. And DataLex knows to ask you for that information and then plug it into the document.
So like filling in the blanks in a legal Mad Libs.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
But legal documents can be so complex, right?
Oh, yeah.
All those clauses and conditions. Can DataLex really handle all of that?
Oh, absolutely. You can use all that logical power of yscript within those document rules. So you can create things like conditional clauses, alternative wording, even pull in info from other rules or databases.
So it's not just like spitting out static text.
Yeah.
It's creating documents that can adapt.
Exactly.
That's really powerful. Do you have any examples of how this works in practice?
Sure. Let's go back to that will generator we were talking about.
Okay.
There's this rule called revocation, which deals with canceling out any old wills. Now, this rule has two different versions, depending on whether the person wants to completely revoke all previous wills, or just partially revoke them. So they're keeping certain parts from an old will.
So it's like choosing between a clean slate or carrying over some specific instructions from a previous will.
Exactly. And the system asks the user a simple question. It's like, are all former testamentary dispositions to be revoked?
And based on the answer?
Based on the answer, it generates the right paragraph. Either stating a full revocation or listing the specific parts to keep from the old will.
So it's not just automating the process, it's making sure the document actually reflects what the person wants.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
It seems like this could prevent so many headaches.
Oh, definitely.
And legal issues down the road.
Absolutely. And it gets even more sophisticated. You can control the numbering of paragraphs, the formatting, personalize the language, even link to outside sources right within the document.
Okay, I'm starting to see why you called yscript a Swiss Army knife.
Right. It can do pretty much anything.
But what really blows my mind is how this document assembly feature works with all the other DataLex reasoning we've talked about. You mentioned being able to trigger other rules while you're building a document.
Yes.
That's next level stuff.
It is. Imagine you're creating a clause in a contract, right?
Okay.
And whether that clause applies depends on a specific law.
Yeah.
Well, DataLex can actually evaluate those legal conditions on the fly, pulling info from other rules, even asking the user for missing details.
So the document assembly becomes an interactive legal analysis session.
Exactly.
That's wild. It's like the document is being built as the system is figuring things out.
That's right.
This is incredible. I could see how DataLex could be used to create a whole ecosystem of legal applications.
Oh, yeah.
From simple self-help tools to sophisticated expert systems. This could really change the game.
It really could. It's all about giving people access to legal knowledge, empowering them to understand and navigate the law better.
It's like putting the power of the law back into the hands of the people.
Exactly. That's the goal.
But enough with the theory. Can you give us some concrete examples?
Of course.
How is this tech actually being used in the real world? Is anyone doing this stuff yet?
Yeah, there are already some really cool applications being developed, even though DataLex is pretty new.
Okay.
One example is Finder KB,
Finder KB.
which tackles the classic legal problem, who gets to keep lost and found property.
Oh, I remember that from law school. Always seemed really tricky.
Oh,
Lots of gray areas.
It is. That's why it's perfect for DataLex. So instead of trying to make one rule that fits everything,
Right.
Finder KB uses that case-based reasoning we were talking about. It analyzes a bunch of those landmark cases and compares the facts of your situation to those precedents.
So it's like having a legal historian at your fingertips.
That's a great way to put it.
Guiding you through centuries of case law. But how does that actually work?
Okay, so the system asks you some questions about the property.
Okay.
Who found it, where they found it, if they know who the owner is. Based on your answers, DataLex finds the most relevant cases and explains how they might apply to you.
So it's not giving a definitive answer, but helping you understand the law.
Exactly.
And make a better decision.
That's right.
That's really valuable, especially when legal advice can be so expensive.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's all about giving people the power to understand their rights, even in those tricky situations where the law isn't totally clear.
That's fantastic. Feels like DataLex could really level the playing field.
Yeah.
Give everyone a chance to understand and fight for their rights.
Exactly.
So excited. DataLex is incredibly versatile.
Yeah, extremely.
It can be used to build applications for all sorts of legal issues.
It can. From consumer rights to intellectual property, environmental law, the possibilities are endless.
This is incredible. It feels like we're seeing a revolution in legal tech. DataLex and yscript could totally transform how we interact with the law, making it more accessible, understandable, and, dare I say, maybe even a little bit fun.
Maybe. I definitely think it has the potential to make the law a lot less intimidating.
Right.
It shows what can happen when legal expertise meets cutting-edge technology.
I love it.
It's all about using innovation to empower individuals and create a more just and equitable legal system.
Beautifully said. What other cool applications are out there in this DataLex world?
There's a really interesting one called Elect KB.
Okay.
It focuses on Australian electoral law, and it walks you through the requirements for running for office, like age, citizenship, even criminal history.
So you could use it to find out if you're qualified to run for office.
Exactly. It takes all those complex legal rules and breaks them down into simple questions with clear explanations.
That's amazing. Imagine all the people who might be inspired to get involved in politics if they had a tool like this.
It's a great example of how DataLex can make legal processes less mysterious and help people participate more in civic life.
I love it. It's about making the law work for everyone, not just the lawyers.
Exactly.
This has been an incredible journey. We've learned so much about DataLex.
It really has.
And how it has the potential to really change things.
Absolutely.
But I feel like our time is winding down. What final thoughts do you have for our listeners before we go on to the last part of our deep dive?
We've only scratched the surface of what DataLex and yscript can do.
Right.
This is a call to action, I think.
Okay.
For legal professionals, for technologists, for anyone who's passionate about making the law more accessible.
Yeah.
The potential here is huge, and we're just getting started.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey with DataLex.
Yeah.
From yscript to its reasoning abilities, even assembling documents. But before we wrap up, I'm curious about what it's actually like to use a DataLex application. Is it user-friendly? Or do you need, like, a law degree, A&D, computer science degree just to get started?
No, not at all. It's designed to be super intuitive.
Okay.
Even for someone who's never even seen a law book, let alone written code.
All right.
Think of it like having a conversation with a really knowledgeable, really patient guide who walks you through everything.
So no intimidating legal jargon, no confusing interfaces?
Nope, none of that.
That's a relief.
Yeah.
But how does the interaction actually work?
Okay, so the system basically asks you clear, straightforward questions.
Yeah.
In plain English.
Okay.
And depending on the question, you can answer with a yes or no, pick from some options, or type in specific info.
That does sound refreshingly user-friendly.
Right.
But what if I get stuck on a question? Or need more information? Does DataLex just leave me hanging?
No way. One of the coolest features is the why command.
Why command?
Yeah. If you're not sure why DataLex is asking something, you just type why.
Okay.
And it'll explain its reasoning. Often even...
Can you tell DataLex you're not sure?
Absolutely. If you're unsure about a question, there's usually an uncertain option you can pick. And DataLex will do its best to keep going with the analysis, but if that uncertainty means it can't reach a clear conclusion, it'll let you know.
So it recognizes that legal situations can be complicated. You don't always have a clear yes or no.
Exactly. It's not about fitting everything into neat little boxes.
That's really important. Any other features that make DataLex user-friendly?
Oh, yeah, tons. You can go back and review all the info you've put in, correct mistakes.
Okay.
You can even test out different scenarios with a what-if feature.
Interesting.
And if you want to start over completely, there's a forget-all command.
So you can clear everything and start fresh.
Exactly.
That's incredibly helpful when you're dealing with these complicated issues and want to try different things.
Absolutely.
It gives you the freedom to explore, experiment, without worrying about messing things up.
Right, that's the idea.
It sounds like they've really thought about creating an empowering user experience.
They really have. The whole design is all about encouraging exploration and understanding, not intimidating people.
Well, I gotta say, I am thoroughly impressed with DataLex. It's not just some cool tech. It's a thoughtfully designed system that can make a real difference.
I agree. It shows what the future of legal information can be. More accessible, understandable, and ultimately more empowering for everyone.
It feels like it's more than just a tool, it's a whole philosophy.
I think so too.
Using technology to make justice more accessible, creating a more equitable legal system, it's about putting the power of the law back into the hands of the people.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about.
Well, on that inspiring note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into this fascinating world of DataLex. We've learned so much today.
We have.
But this is just the beginning, really. I encourage everyone listening to check out DataLex.
Yeah, explore it.
See what it can do.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you today.
And to all of you listening, thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.